Her mother said it so casually, like it was nothing. "There's just no room for the kids this year, Clara." Her voice was soft, polite, like she wasn't cutting Clara's children out of Thanksgiving again. Clara stared at the photo she'd just posted online. Her sister's twins smiling by the lake house fireplace, their golden retriever wrapped in a monogrammed blanket. Not one mention of her own kids. That was the moment something inside her went still. She didn't argue or cry. She simply hung up, opened her laptop, and bought something no one in her family could ever overlook: a penthouse in New York with more space than all their excuses combined. The news spread quickly. Within days, her mother called again, cheerful this time. "Clara, we're all coming to your place this year." Clara smiled faintly. "Sure you are," she said. This time, she planned to make room for the truth. Her name was Clara Morgan, 34, mother of 2, and the invisible middle child of a family that never quite noticed her. Her sister, Renee, was the golden one, 3 years older, born with that effortless glow that made teachers and neighbors adore her. Her younger brother, Ethan, was the soft-spoken baby everyone protected. And Clara? She was the quiet one, the helper, the listener, the space between their noise. They grew up in a manicured Connecticut suburb where smiles lasted exactly long enough for the neighbors to see. Her father was an accountant, her mother a third-grade teacher. Both loved structure and reputation. At dinners, the spotlight always landed on Renee's perfect grades and debate trophies. Clara learned early to pass the salt, smile at the right moments, and not expect applause. When she left for college, no one even asked what she wanted to study. She picked finance because it was practical, solid, something her parents could understand. But practicality became passion. Years of long nights and endless flights shaped her into a sharp, respected investment director. Somewhere in the climb, she met Adrian Hayes, her ex-husband, a man as ambitious as she was. They built dreams on spreadsheets, promising futures in joint budgets and shared calendars. They married young, bought a small house, and soon had Maya and Leo, their 2 children. For a while it felt like belonging. But love doesn't survive on efficiency alone. Adrian chased excitement while Clara clung to stability. Their marriage ended not in shouting matches but in signatures and silence. Clara kept the kids, the mortgage, and the rhythm of normal life, packing lunches, reading bedtime stories between conference calls. She became both mother and provider, learning how to smile through exhaustion and find peace in structure. That first Thanksgiving after the divorce, Clara expected her parents to rally around her. Instead, her mother called the night before. "Maybe you should come alone this year, honey. It's crowded with Renee's twins and the dog." The words slipped through the phone so gently they almost sounded kind. Clara hung up slowly, staring at her sleeping children. She realized she'd inherited more than her parents' calm. She'd inherited their hierarchy. That night, she made a quiet promise. "The cycle ends with me." The following holidays fell into the same pattern. Soft rejections wrapped in politeness, followed by photos that screamed exclusion. Each year she could predict her mother's regretful tone. "Sweetheart, Renee's bringing the twins again, and you know how your father gets when the house is full. Maybe next time." But next time never came. Social media made the sting worse. Perfect family portraits by the lake house. Renee's children in matching pajamas under a 12-foot Christmas tree. Her parents smiling like they had no missing pieces. Even their dog had a stocking embroidered with its name. And every time Clara scrolled, her children would ask the same question. "Why doesn't Grandma want us there?" She'd bake cookies, put on a movie, and pretend they were too busy being happy to care. But when Maya once whispered, "Does Grandma like the dog more than us?" Clara cried silently in the shower. Still she sent gifts, called on birthdays, and kept the peace, because that's what middle children do. Then came the 4th of July call, the one that changed everything. "Clara," her mother began, "about the lake house weekend, we're running out of beds. The basement flooded, and the porch isn't safe for sleeping." Her tone was so smooth, so rehearsed, it almost made Clara laugh. Almost. Instead she said, "That's fine, Mom. Maybe another time." But that evening, Ethan texted her. "You won't believe this. They just redid the basement, new carpet, TV, everything. He sent a photo. Renee's twins grinning in the very room their mother had claimed was damaged. And above their heads hung a wooden sign that read, "Family makes this house a home." The irony burned through her chest. It had never been about space. It was about who they chose to make room for, and who they didn't. That night, something inside Clara shifted from hurt to resolve. The next morning, Maya overheard her cousin during a video call. "Grandma says your apartment's too small for big dinners," the girl teased. "She likes coming here better." Maya's face fell. "Mom, is that true?" she asked later, her voice trembling. Clara knelt down beside her. "No, sweetheart. Our home is perfect for us. Some people only see value in what looks big, but they forget what's real." That night, Clara lay awake, staring at the ceiling. She realized she was done being grateful for scraps of affection. If her parents couldn't make space for her children, she would build a world where they never needed their approval again. By dawn, her decision was clear. She was going to buy a home that no one could ignore, a place where no room would never be an excuse again. When you've spent your life being quiet, there's a strange calm before you finally stop. That calm guided Clara as she sat at her laptop and typed New York penthouses for sale. She wasn't chasing luxury, she was building a reset. Between school drop-offs and board meetings, she met with her financial advisor, Jasmine Torres. "You're in a strong position," Jasmine said, scrolling through listings. "You could buy something incredible." Clara's eyes settled on one, a 4-bedroom penthouse on the Upper East Side, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a rooftop terrace overlooking the skyline. "That's the one," she said softly. She could already picture Maya painting by the sunlight, Leo building Lego towers on the floor. Space, real space. Not measured in square feet but in belonging. She didn't tell her family. She didn't even tell anyone at work. Only Daniel, her oldest friend, knew. When she showed him the photos, he whistled. "This isn't revenge," he said. "This is evolution." By fall, the kids and Clara spent weekends decorating the new place. Plants, cozy rugs, laughter echoing through marble halls. Maya painted a mural of Central Park on her wall. Leo chose glowing constellations for his ceiling. Standing on the rooftop one evening, Clara looked over the city lights and whispered, "They'll never say there isn't room again." Then, as if the universe were testing her, the phone rang. Her mother's number blinked on screen. Clara exhaled slowly before answering. "Clara, about Thanksgiving," her mother began, syrupy sweet. "We're hosting again, but Renee's bringing the twins and the dog, so it might be a little tight." "That's fine," Clara interrupted, calm and clear. "We won't be coming this year. The kids and I are hosting Thanksgiving in our new place." Her mother was. "New place?" "Yes," Clara said evenly. "A penthouse on the Upper East Side." A beat of silence stretched. Then her mother's tone brightened. "Oh my goodness, Clara, that sounds spectacular. Perhaps we could all come there this year instead. You have the space now." There was the shift. Years of excuses vanished the moment there was something they wanted. Clara smiled faintly. "Let me think about it," she said. But in her heart, she already knew. She wasn't opening her doors to people who only valued her when it suited them. Within days, the tone of every message changed. Texts poured in, eager, polite, fake. First came Renee. "Mom says you bought a penthouse on the Upper East Side." "Which building?" Clara kept her reply brief. "Just moved in. Keeping it simple this year." "Perfect." Renee texted back. "The twins have always wanted to see the Thanksgiving parade. We'll stay with you, it'll be fun." Then came her father. "Your mother and I think it would be wonderful to celebrate together at your new place. We'll bring dessert." Even distant relatives chimed in. "Can't wait to see your new home." The same people who once had no room for her children suddenly had endless room for themselves. When Clara told Daniel, he shook his head. "They're not coming because they love you," he said. "They're coming because they love how it looks." When her father called again, his tone carried that old authority that used to make her shrink. "Clara, it would mean a lot to your mother if we could all come." Family is important, especially now that you've done so well for yourself. She let the silence stretch until it felt heavy. You mean now that I finally have something you respect? Don't start that again, he snapped. We love all our children equally. Equally, she repeated, her voice low. Is that what you told Maya and Leo when they slept on air mattresses while Renee's dog had my old room? He sputtered, defensive. But Clara didn't waver. Anyone who didn't make room for my kids before, she said, doesn't get a seat at our table now. Before he could respond, she ended the call, her hands trembling. But for the first time it wasn't from fear. Thanksgiving morning arrived crisp and golden. The terrace shimmered under the November sun, candles flickering beside plates and linen napkins. Clara's closest friends filled the space with laughter, Daniel and his wife carving the turkey, neighbors from Boston sharing stories. It wasn't the biggest party, but it was warm, real. By mid-afternoon, the penthouse buzzed with life. Then Ethan arrived last, holding flowers and guilt in equal measure. I should have spoken up years ago, he said quietly. You shouldn't have had to go through that alone. Clara squeezed his hand. Then don't let it happen again. Outside, the city hummed. Inside, her children laughed freely, their joy filling every corner. For the first time in years, Thanksgiving felt like something sacred. Not because of who was missing, but because of who was finally there. At 4:30, the elevator chimed. Her parents stepped out holding a pie and matching smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. Clara, her mother breathed, looking around. This is extraordinary. Thank you, Clara replied calmly. Dinner's over, but you're just in time for dessert. They exchanged a glance, realizing this wasn't the triumphant entrance they'd imagined. When Maya and Leo appeared in the doorway, silence fell. Her father cleared his throat, suddenly awkward. Maya, Leo, he began, kneeling clumsily. We haven't been the grandparents you deserve. We made excuses instead of space, and that was wrong. Her mother knelt too, eyes glistening. Can you forgive us? We'd like to do better. Clara said nothing. This moment belonged to her children. Maya looked at her grandparents steadily. Will you come to my art show next month? Of course, her father said softly. Leo crossed his small arms. And can we sleep at your house sometimes? Not on the floor? Her mother nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. You'll have your own room, sweetheart. They hugged gently, cautious as if touching something delicate. Around them, everyone exhaled, the kind of release that only comes when truth finally lands. For the first time, Clara saw sincerity in her parents' faces. Maybe guilt could be the seed of change. Just as the air softened, her phone buzzed. Renee. Can't believe you didn't invite us. Mom said it's incredible up there. The twins were so excited. Even Bentley's saddle. Clara sighed and typed slowly. Actually, Renee, for once it's about my kids. If you want to be part of their lives, start by apologizing to them, not me. The typing bubble blinked, vanished, then blinked again, pride choking through pixels. Ethan had been watching her. She'll never admit it, he said quietly. I know, Clara replied. But that's her burden, not mine. Outside, the city lights began to bloom across the skyline. From the terrace, Central Park glowed like gold embroidery against the dusk. Mom, Maya said softly beside her, leaning on the railing. It feels good here. It does, Clara agreed. Because everyone here wants to be. Her father joined them, quieter now, humbled. You've built something beautiful, Clara. She nodded, not in pride but in peace. I built what I needed. He looked out over the city, voice trembling. We thought we were doing our best. I know, she said. But good intentions don't fill empty chairs. Behind them laughter echoed, real, unforced, alive. In the months that followed, something softened between them. Her parents began calling more, not to pry but to ask about the kids. They came to Maya's art show in December. Her father stood before a watercolor of Central Park and murmured, "She's got your eye for detail." It wasn't much, but it was honest. Slowly they started showing up for the small things too. School plays, weekend lunches, science projects over video calls. It was awkward, fragile, but real. Clara didn't rush forgiveness. She let consistency speak. Ethan became a steady presence too, bringing groceries, playing board games, telling her how their father had quietly removed that family makes this house a home sign from the lake house wall. He said it never felt right after what happened, Ethan told her. Maybe guilt had finally turned into reflection. Renee stayed silent. No apologies. No olive branches. Just absence. And that, Clara realized, was okay. Not every story needed reconciliation. Some only needed closure. Her kids stopped asking about their aunt. Peace sometimes meant subtraction. Professionally, her life flourished. The firm promoted her to managing director, and she began mentoring younger women who reminded her of herself. Ambitious, capable, overlooked. She told them what she'd learned the hard way. Never beg for a seat at someone else's table. Build your own, and set the rules yourself. Her words echoed long after her mentor left the office. They were more than advice. They were a manifesto. Each time she walked through the glass doors of her firm, she carried that truth like armor. Quiet, steady, unshakable. One Saturday morning in early spring, Clara woke to the smell of pancakes. Maya and Leo had taken over the kitchen. Flour on the counter, laughter bubbling through the penthouse. "What's all this?" Clara asked, smiling. "We're practicing for next Thanksgiving," Maya said proudly. "We're hosting again, right?" "Always," Clara said. They ate breakfast on the terrace as sunlight poured through the city haze. She looked around. The table, the skyline, her children's bright faces, and realized how far they'd come. From air mattresses to a home filled with peace. It wasn't the penthouse that made it whole. It was the laughter, the love, and the certainty that every inch of it belonged to them. For the first time in her life, Clara felt full, not of approval or revenge, but of freedom. That evening, as twilight settled over Manhattan, Clara stood alone on the rooftop. The city below shimmered with life. The same city that once made her feel small, now reflecting her strength back at her. Inside, her children's laughter echoed through the glass doors. For years, she had mistaken silence for peace, thinking that if she didn't fight, things would stay calm. But peace without respect was just suppression. The no room excuses had taught her something business school never could. Boundaries aren't walls. They're doors, and you choose who walks through. Downstairs, Maya and Leo set the dinner table. 2 plates, a vase of tulips, and little cards they'd written. "Always room for us." "Mom," Leo called. "We saved you the best seat." Clara smiled, walking toward the warmth that waited inside. For once, she didn't have to earn her place. She'd built it. Over the following weeks, Clara noticed small but steady changes. Her mother started sending texts about recipes, asking for advice instead of offering it. Her father shared photos of the garden they were replanting. It wasn't dramatic, but it was effort, and for the first time it felt genuine. On Sunday evenings, Maya would video call her grandparents to show them her sketches, and Leo would give them quick tours of his new Lego constructions. Sometimes the calls were short, a little awkward, filled with pauses, but every conversation ended with laughter. Clara didn't forget the years of silence, but she also didn't let bitterness steal this fragile progress. Forgiveness, she'd learned, wasn't a door you opened for others. It was one you opened for yourself so you could breathe again. Slowly that breath came easier. By mid-spring, her parents came to visit in person. They arrived with bags full of fruit and homemade soup, as if trying to make up for lost years through offerings. Her mother stood at the window, staring out at the city skyline. "I used to think places like this were lonely," she said softly. "Now I see it feels alive." Clara smiled. "It's not about the place, Mom. It's about who fills it." Her mother nodded, eyes glistening. "You've built something beautiful, Clara." For a moment, Clara saw her not as the woman who'd once excluded her children, but as someone still learning what love really looked like. That evening they all cooked dinner together. Leo insisted on stirring the pasta, Maya set the table, and laughter filled the apartment. It wasn't perfect, but it was new, and that was enough. Ethan became a regular visitor, too. He'd stop by after work with groceries or stories from home. One evening, he arrived with an old photo album. "Remember this?" he asked, flipping to a picture of them as kids, playing near the lake house dock. "You used to say one day you'd live in the city and never have to beg for space." Clara laughed quietly. "Guess I kept my promise." He nodded. "You did more than that. You made space for others to breathe too." They spent hours reminiscing, old memories, inside jokes, and unspoken regrets. When he left that night, he hugged her longer than usual. "You've changed the tone of this whole family," he whispered. She smiled, watching him go. Maybe the quietest people really did create the loudest change. That summer, her parents invited her and the kids to the lake house for a weekend. Clara hesitated. The place carried too many ghosts, of exclusion, of being politely forgotten. But Maya begged, "Please, Mom. I want to see the lake Grandma keeps talking about." Clara agreed, but on one condition: they'd leave if it felt wrong. When they arrived, the house looked different. The old sign above the couch, "Family makes this house a home," was gone. In its place hung a new one: "Love lives here when everyone's welcome." Her father saw her looking and said quietly, "Ethan helped me pick it out." For the first time in years, Clara felt her chest loosen. The air smelled like forgiveness, faint but real. They spent the weekend swimming, laughing, and telling stories by the fire. Maya roasted marshmallows while Leo built castles out of sand. Her parents moved slower now, gentler somehow, like people who had finally realized time could run out. One night, her father approached her on the porch. "You were right," he said. "We made a mistake choosing comfort over connection. I can't change what we did, but I can choose differently now." Clara didn't say anything for a long time. Then she smiled faintly. "That's all I ever wanted, Dad. A choice." He nodded, looking out at the still water. "You gave us a chance to make things right, even when you didn't owe us one." For the first time, his words felt like truth, not performance. By the time autumn came again, Clara's life felt balanced in a way it never had before. Work was thriving, her children were flourishing, and her parents' calls had become a comforting part of her week. But it wasn't just her family that had changed, it was her boundaries. She no longer said yes out of guilt or fear. She said yes when it aligned with peace. One Friday afternoon, she sat in a cafe with Daniel, sipping coffee as golden leaves drifted outside. "You're quieter these days," he said, smiling. "Peaceful quiet," she corrected. "Not the old kind." He raised his mug in a toast. "To new tables." She clinked hers against his. "And to knowing who belongs at them." Thanksgiving came around once more, and this time there was no tension, just anticipation. Clara planned a smaller gathering. Her parents, Ethan, Daniel, his wife, and a few close friends. The kids helped with everything. Maya folded napkins into swans. Leo arranged candles on the terrace. As the city lights shimmered, Clara watched them move with confidence, unburdened by the shadows of rejection. That evening, as everyone gathered around the table, her mother took Clara's hand. "Thank you for teaching us what family really means," she said. Clara smiled. "I didn't teach you, Mom. Life did. I just stopped ignoring the lesson." The room filled with warmth. Not perfection but sincerity. For the first time, Thanksgiving wasn't about performance. It was about belonging. After dinner, Clara stood on the terrace, gazing at the skyline. The same view that once symbolized isolation now pulsed with quiet pride. Ethan joined her, sipping tea. "Do you ever think about the years you lost?" he asked. "Sometimes," she admitted. "But I think about what I gained more. Which is self-respect, and a home that feels like truth." He nodded slowly. "You've built something that'll outlast resentment." She looked out at the twinkling lights. "That's the goal." From inside, Maya's laughter rang out. The sound was full, free, the sound of healing generations could hear if they listened close enough. Winter arrived quietly. Snow fell across the terrace like a soft memory. Clara decorated the penthouse with her children. Warm lights, paper stars, and hand-painted ornaments. On Christmas Eve, her parents arrived early carrying gifts wrapped in silver paper. There was no awkwardness this time, only gratitude. They exchanged stories, watched movies, and fell asleep by the fire. In the morning, Clara woke to the smell of cinnamon rolls and laughed. Her father sat cross-legged on the floor helping Leo assemble a toy robot. Her mother braided Maya's hair, humming softly. For once, there were no performances. Just people choosing to show up. Clara leaned against the doorway, taking it all in. The silence that used to suffocate her now felt sacred. It was the sound of peace that didn't have to be earned. After the holidays, life returned to its steady rhythm. Clara's promotion had given her flexibility, and she started volunteering at a mentorship program for single mothers. One afternoon during a workshop, a young woman asked, "How do you forgive people who never said sorry?" Clara smiled softly. "You stop waiting for them to," she said. "Forgiveness isn't approval. It's freedom." The woman nodded, tears in her eyes. Afterward she whispered, "Thank you. I didn't know I needed to hear that." Driving home that evening, Clara thought about how far she'd come. From the girl who was told there wasn't room, to the woman teaching others to make their own. Maybe her pain had been her education all along. One spring weekend, Clara took Maya and Leo to the countryside. They stayed at a small inn surrounded by cherry blossoms. Over breakfast, Leo asked, "Mom, do you think Grandma and Grandpa really changed?" Clara stirred her tea thoughtfully. "I think they're trying," she said. "And sometimes trying is the most anyone can do." Maya smiled. "Then maybe that's enough." "Maybe it is," Clara said. They spent the day hiking and laughing, the air crisp and light. As the sun set, Clara watched her children chase each other through fields of pink petals and thought, this is what healing looks like. Not loud or dramatic, just consistent, like the way morning always finds its way through the night. Later that year, Renee reached out. The text was short. "I'd like to visit. The kids miss their cousins." Clara hesitated, then replied, "We can meet for lunch first, just us." When the day came, they met at a quiet cafe. Renee looked older, her confidence dimmed by humility. "I was jealous," she admitted after a long silence. "You were always steady, and I thought if I kept shining, I'd never lose control. But I did. I lost you." Clara stirred her coffee. "You didn't lose me. You just stopped seeing me." Renee's eyes filled. "I'm sorry." For the first time, Clara believed her. It wasn't a grand reconciliation, but it was a beginning. A small, honest one. And that was enough. That summer, the families reunited for the first time in years. The kids played together like they'd never been apart, laughter echoing through the penthouse halls. Clara watched from the terrace as her parents helped Maya serve lemonade. And Renee took photos of Leo and the twins building forts from couch cushions. Ethan leaned against the railing beside her. "Feels different this time," he said. "It does," she agreed. "Because nobody's pretending anymore." Below them, the city pulsed with life, a living mirror of their chaos and connection. For once, Clara didn't feel like the quiet middle child or the peacekeeper. She felt like the architect, the one who had rebuilt the foundation of her family, one boundary at a time. By fall, Clara's story began inspiring others online. She started a small blog about boundaries, motherhood, and resilience. She wrote late at night after the kids were asleep, her words raw and real. Within months, messages poured in from women around the world. "Your story helped me say no. I finally hosted my own holiday. I stopped apologizing for existing." Each message reminded Clara that healing was contagious. Sometimes one person's courage gave thousands permission to begin. One evening she looked at the glowing screen and whispered, "This is why it happened. So I could tell it." And for the first time the years of hurt felt repurposed, turned into light. Her parents found the blog too. One Sunday her mother called, voice trembling. "Clara, I read your latest post." Clara braced herself, expecting anger. Instead her mother said, It hurt, but it helped. I didn't realize how much we broke until I saw it written down. Clara exhaled. You're trying, Mom. That's what matters now. Her mother paused. We're proud of you. Not just for what you built, but for who you became. Tears burned in Clara's eyes. Thanks, Mom. It wasn't closure, it was connection. Fragile, imperfect, but real. The kind that doesn't erase the past but finally makes peace with it. Years later, the Penthouse became more than a home. It became a gathering place. Thanksgiving dinners grew into traditions filled with friends who'd once been strangers. The table always had extra seats. Maya grew into a young artist with exhibits downtown. Leo became a budding engineer, always curious, always building. Clara watched them with quiet pride. They would never know what it felt like to be uninvited, unseen. She had rewritten that legacy for them. And each time someone new sat at their table, she'd tell her children softly, "See? There's always room when love leads." And they'd smile, repeating the line they'd written as children. Always room for us. One summer evening after everyone had gone, Clara stood on the terrace watching the city lights blink awake. The skyline shimmered against the twilight, and she thought about the woman she used to be, the one who waited for permission to belong. She didn't miss her. She honored her. That woman had survived long enough to create this one. Behind her, Maya came out holding 2 mugs of tea. You okay, Mom? Clara smiled. Better than okay. They stood together in silence, watching the world below. You know, Maya said softly. You built this life from a no. Clara nodded. And that's why it means everything. Autumn came again, painting the city gold. Clara decided to take a trip back to Connecticut with her kids. As they drove past their old neighborhood, memories flickered like ghosts in the rearview mirror. The old house looked smaller, almost fragile. She parked for a moment, letting the nostalgia pass. Do you miss it? Maya asked. Clara thought for a moment. No, she said. I miss who I thought I'd be there. But I like who I became instead. They drove off, leaving the past exactly where it belonged. In the distance, fading softly behind them that winter, Clara hosted her biggest gathering yet. A mix of family, friends, and colleagues. The Penthouse buzzed with laughter and music. Her father gave a toast, voice thick with emotion. To my daughter, who taught us that love isn't about space. It's about inclusion. Everyone cheered. Clara's eyes met his across the room, and she nodded. The past didn't vanish, but it no longer defined them. Later, as the night quieted, Daniel leaned in. You know, this story could be a book. Clara laughed. Maybe one day. But deep down she knew it already was. It was written in every healed heart in that room. When the guests finally left, Clara stood at the window one last time. The city glittered, endless and alive. She thought of the girl who once sat by the phone waiting for an invitation that never came. That girl had no idea she would grow up to host the world. Maya came running, laughing. Mom, we forgot to blow out the candles. Clara turned, smiling. Then let's make a wish before we do. They closed their eyes together. She didn't wish for love or success or forgiveness. She wished for courage, for every person still waiting to be seen, to finally build their own table. When she opened her eyes, the flames flickered softly, warm, steady, eternal. And for the first time in her life, Clara knew. She'd made room for everything that mattered.